it too, and I was there. Like, oh, it's good.
Don't be shy. First of all, huge congrats to everyone standing on stage. Wow. What a special movie. We'll start with a softball to get things going. How did this project get started? Tell us a little bit about the genesis, Susanna, and all the rest of you.
Well, I should turn this over to Kristen.
Where it all started.
I can't believe you're making me talk first. That's so mean. Yeah, I wrote a story. I was a grad student. I had never published a story before. It was accepted in the New Yorker. A lot of people read it. It was very stressful and very scary and incredible and strange. And one of the very strange things that happened is about a few weeks after it came out, they said, we want to think about making it into a movie. And I said, that seems impossible. And then a lot more things happened, and I will give this microphone back to Susanna to talk about them. And then, I feel like I did that?
I do. And then Jeremy Steckler called me and said, there's this wild story that has just gone viral. Have you read it? And I said, I haven't. And he sent it to me, and I read it, and I was having the reaction that everyone seemed to be having, which is everyone could see themselves in this story. And I thought, this is a really interesting way to advance a very complicated conversation that had just started. And so and I did, when I read the story, I thought, it's so beautiful and perfect. It didn't seem like an entire movie, but it did seem horrific to me as in a horror movie, so that's kind of where I took it.
And then I was lucky enough to meet Michelle through Jeremy, and yeah, we got along right away. We had similar, I guess, opinions about the cultural conversation that was going on, and Kristen's story, and what was interesting to explore further in the movie. So, yeah.
Yes, you certainly took it a couple steps further. And I'm curious, for Emilia and Nicholas, you had to deal with so many different shifting dynamics. What was it like to sort of be scene partners through everything from a great chemistry blooming to, you know, fighting for your lives?
Where do we start? I mean, first thing I think of is just the horrible kiss.
Chilling.
You know, it's
shockingly
like,
bad, yeah.
That was step, one to figure that out.
I mean,
it all builds on that.
From then on, I mean, Nick and I were very close. I think we even laughed in each other's mouths halfway through a take.
We did. It was very hard to get through that.
It was very hard. Yeah, I think we were also just really lucky. We got on straight away, and because we're such good friends, it allowed us to have complete and utter trust.
Yeah.
And so when we were doing extreme scene after extreme scene, we managed to make it fun.
It was certainly fun to watch. Do you have questions from the audience? Yeah, right here, down in front. Oh, good. Prepared.
You were typing during the movie, or? Not cool. Thanks. That was 15 years ago. So, thank you.
I guess the question is what it was like playing an unlikable character. The good summation. I know.
Yeah. You can hand him your phone and he can reread that. No. Yeah, I think, that was one of the most exciting parts of it. This is an energy of a guy I've never explored, but just who he is and the territory of it. You know, it's important and it's complicated, and I think you could say he's a bad guy, but it's so much more complex than that. And you know, in a lot of this movie, he thinks he was doing right. You know, he thinks he was doing it right. Yeah, for me, sorry, I went through such a road of emotion watching this movie, so I still am like going through it. It was overwhelming. I love this movie so much. But it felt good to step into something like that. It was new. I had to trust these guys and, you know, Susanna to help me drop into something I've never dropped into before. So, thanks for noticing.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, it's about the questions about the cultural references and what you chose to include in the script.
I mean, this is something that Michelle and I talked about a lot. Just that both Robert and Margot were trying to build personas for themselves and project about each other based on the pop culture influences that they've had and the movies they've seen and the examples of women and men that they've tried to be. So yeah, we really wanted to be specific about what versions of masculinity and femininity they were trying to emulate, whether they succeeded or not. You can speak to that.
Yeah, I think the Harrison Ford thing caught on pretty early because what's so fascinating about Harrison Ford is he's the most beloved kind of movie figure out there, and no one would ever associate him with any kind of rape culture kind of movie making at all. Yet when you look at those movies, and these are movies that, you know, millions and billions of people have been seeing for decades, it's really interesting what's actually in them. And so it was not to pick on Harrison Ford at all, except for to show how pernicious these images are and have been for so long, and how many, you know, young men have grown up just idolizing Harrison Ford, and rightly. And yet when you look at what's in some of these movies, it's actually really it's surprising.
I think you put it really successfully in dialogue with all those things. Right here. Great question. Did the cast survive the fire?
Yeah, two, they're both fine.
What a relief.
Is raising them.
What a relief.
They're great girls. House stinks like shit. We love cats.
Down here in the red, yeah. Exploration to sort of seem out discomfort in these sort of situations.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot, I think, in, you know, the decision to make it more of a cross-genre movie, just to try to, Kristen's Story was so specific about the interior fears and projections that women have, and what's sort of built into just trying to connect with a man when you're physically smaller than a man, but you're trying to fall in love, but also you're told culturally that you should fear them because they could attack you at any moment. And so I think there's a lot of competing narratives that were fed, especially now. So I think Michelle and I talked a lot about trying to manifest those interior fears in an externalized sense of danger, even if it's just that feeling of like that adrenaline, cortisol flash of danger that you have, that I think a lot of women have when they're just in a situation with someone they don't know, suddenly aware of the size of that person who they just got into a car with, that they, you know, met on Tinder a day ago, and now they're driving at 80 miles an hour down a highway and they don't know that person. You know, like the things that we relate to. So yeah, trying to play out the worst case scenario to the fullest extent was a way to, I think, immerse people in Margot's state of mind and how volatile it can be to be a young woman or woman of any age or person of any age.
Yeah, and the internal and external play was obviously such a smart way to do that. Emilia, what was it like acting with yourself to try to eliminate some of that?
I mean, yeah, I'd never done anything like that, and I'd never done a film like this, you know, as Susanna was saying, and as you were saying, it's so nuanced, and the kind of interiority of dating and playing the moments between the moments, the reactions when you're thinking one thing but you're saying another thing, when you're talking to yourself, and you're kind of, you know, Margot's constantly having this kind of complicated ballet in her head, and it was really interesting to explore that, and it was a challenge, and I really, really enjoyed it.
You certainly met it, I would say. Right here in front. Yes, you.
Yeah, great movie. The essay created so much debate. I was wondering what kind of conversations are you hoping this movie will start?
Great question. The question's about sort of the conversations that came from the short story and what you think will come from the film. Similar, different, yeah.
I mean, I think we just wanted to continue the conversation and to stoke whatever conversations people feel inspired to have. I'm not trying to be avoidant of answering your question, but I mean, I think we want people to keep talking about the gray areas in dating and intimacy. You know, I think we've had a lot of movies that show the female revenge narrative, but now the next phase in that discussion, we've always talked about, we wanted to sort of explore the ambivalence and the idea that consent is like an ongoing thing, or people change their mind, and there has to be room to talk about that in the culture too. Wishing that you weren't in a place when you did all the things that led you to that place, and what then, and what is the other person supposed to know, or can they know, and you know, the pressure to feel like you need to be absolutely sure what you want and be able to articulate it, otherwise you forfeit your right to escape a situation. I don't know, it's all of that, and how that can play out in the most mundane of situations leading up to the most extreme, like this movie shows. But yeah, I think we just want people to keep talking about it, and talk about it in a nuanced way that allows for the all the shades of gray.
Yeah, and I would say that a lot of people read that story, and maybe you can really speak to this. People were really divided, and people felt the need to, one of those people had to be the villain. And what we're actually trying to do is say, maybe nobody is the villain here. Maybe this is just a catastrophic, massive miscommunication and a pattern of miscommunication that should be really looked at.
This is only the second time I saw the movie. My stomach still hurts, and I think about, with all of the fire and the violence and everything that happens, to me the scariest and most upsetting parts are just the expressions on Emilia's face, right? And just the idea that like someone could be seeing her making those faces and not feel like, stop, you know? But if somebody doesn't, what can you say? Like, I just feel like that was what it was to me to see it up there. It's like those experiences that feel internal and invisible actually aren't. Like, they're all on her face minute by minute. And like, it's still so hard to talk about. And so I feel like that is something you can't talk about with a film, not with a story. You know, you can see what the other person is seeing, and you can talk about it and realize like everyone doesn't have the same experience, and that's shocking and amazing and scary, I think.
Probably time for one more question. Searching for the perfect candidate. Yes, waving in the back. Yeah, you, yeah. Great question, follow. We didn't see it appear in the short story. Talk to me about the choice to include it in the film.
Yeah, I think Kristen made it ambiguous. You don't know. They just start to, again, spin mentally about whether or not that guy has cats, and if he doesn't, what does it mean? If he does, and we thought, oh, how interesting that he actually did. that they went down a whole path of imagining what was happening, and it turns out, oh, it was not what they thought.
Well, the film is such a gift of complexity and ambiguity. Thank you all so much for sharing it with us. Congratulations again to all of you. Thanks for coming to the festival. Enjoy the rest of your time.